told my father I was going to work in finance, he was disappointed. Why are you working for that boring, inhuman world? You see, my parents were artists, photographers, filmmakers, writers, revolutionaries. They had no concept of finance. Finance was alien, intimidating, and also terribly dull. My mother was Japanese, my father was Austrian. I grew up in 3 continents. I went to 15 different schools in 4 different languages. And when I grew up, I wanted to work in a museum or become a painter or a writer or an ambassador. But when I was 16, my mother died, and then my father got very ill. And I wanted financial security, so I ended up in finance. And for many years, I was passively doing my job. My heart wasn't in it. I was just plodding along every day. But I recently discovered something. And I discovered that what I am doing is worthwhile and relevant. I discovered the humanity in it. You see, investment should be about human beings. We collect savings, and then we put those savings into companies and industries that will thrive and in turn come back to society so that society can thrive. But right now we've lost sight of its true purpose. And I'm here today to tell you that we need more humanity in investment so that investment can serve humanity. I'm a complete outlier in the industry. I'm an outlier because I'm not called James. There are more people called James in the investment industry than there are women. In the UK, only 4% of fund managers are women. Only 4%. Why is it that the population is composed of 50% women, and yet in the UK, 96% of our savings are managed by a select group of men? I'm also an outlier because I'm an arts graduate. I studied languages and literature, which I love. And I'm also an outlier because I'm of mixed race and I didn't go to boarding school. And I'm here today because how can we be making the right investments if even so few of us, even here today, are even in the industry? Really, the last financial crisis would simply not have happened if we'd had more women, more diverse thinking, and more arts graduates. The financial crisis started with subprime mortgages. So banks lent too much to borrowers whom they knew from the beginning they couldn't afford these mortgages. Then they packaged up all these weak mortgages into vehicles, into constructs. They were very clever. And they sold them on to millions of investors globally as if they were risk-free. Well, we know what happened. We had the financial crisis. For a system to be safe, you need diverse thinkers. This financial crisis, started by this clever construct, was really the imagination of a very select group of same thinking, mainly male bankers. So today, I'm here because I want more of us to be involved. I want more of humanity, more of the human race to be active in investment so that we can keep the system safe. Investment is not just maths and economics. I mean, there's this myth that if you are a physics graduate or that you're a maths whiz, that will make you a good investor. And this myth scares a lot of amazing human beings from entering the industry. But actually, investment is about a deeper and wider understanding of culture and society. And right now, as the world is rapidly changing, we really need more diverse thinking, more arts graduates to enter the industry. So I really encourage that. We do not need more number crunchers only, or so kind of quantitative people, because actually they produced the crisis the last time. So really, what we really need is good judgment, creativity, and communication skills. I was recently on an investor delegation to Indonesia. I traveled a whole day to get there. I finally was face-to-face in front of management of the company I was going to invest in. And I was really excited. I was staring these people in their eyes. I was trying to take it all in. And when I looked around the room, the entire delegation, they were all on their BlackBerries. So they missed the entire meeting. And afterwards, they said, I had quite a good impression of that company. I said, no, I didn't at all. I mean, didn't you notice that when I asked them about sales, they were like shuffling their feet and they were staring into their coffee cup and looking really uncomfortable? Oh, you're not one of those body language psychobabble type of women, are you? I am, actually. And a few months later, this company reported results and they were dreadful. The other day, I told my children, I'm going to China for lunch and India for tea. But Mama, how can you fly so much in a day? Well, I'm not flying there, but I'm going to fly there with my mind, because this Chinese company is coming to see me, and then later in the afternoon, this Indian company will see me, and I'm going to learn everything about them. It's so interesting. I will only invest in companies that I've had human communication with, and that might seem like common sense, but you would be surprised how much investment goes on without any human contact whatsoever. We need more human communication, and we need more diverse thinking. So right now, what's happening? The system is not getting any better. The system is, in fact, getting more quantitative and rules-based. Diversity is not improving, and this is because the robots are coming. Everyone knows about the emergence of AI, but no one thinks it will affect them directly. But actually, I recently found out that when I'm buying bonds of companies I'm investing in, that I'm already facing a robot. I was shocked. I thought Mr. Lee in Hong Kong was a person. So now the robots are not only replacing the counterparties I trade with, they're also replacing my competitors. I'm now competing with huge automated funds. So before we had James, and now we have James and his clones. Now, the rise and rise of automated investment really worries me. These are often called passive funds. They are passive because they're entirely rules-based and automated. So you have these huge supercomputers that in 1 nanosecond buy and sell thousands of companies, and they do this on rules alone and just based on numbers. In 2019, passive funds outgrew active funds, and by active I mean human-led funds. So already today, we have bigger passive funds, bigger automated funds than we have human-led funds. So already the robots are taking over. So what we now need to rely on is we have to rely on the robots to appoint auditors or to decide on CEO bonuses. But what happens if things go wrong? Will the supercomputers apologize to us? With the rise and rise in passive funds, we're having a rise in lack of accountability in the system. Because let's face it, it's simple. It's much easier to have good corporate governance when human beings are the shareholders and not supercomputers. Passive funds tend to invest in the status quo. So in the UK, these would be the largest companies in the sectors of oil and gas, banks, mining, tobacco, etc. So whenever you invest in a passive fund, you're giving these companies more capital. They grow even bigger, and you're starving innovators in the industry of capital. But isn't that, investment should be about investing in the future, shouldn't it? Another issue is financial stability. You tend to get a stable system when you have lots of diverse buyers and sellers in the marketplace, because after all, capital markets are just that. It's a marketplace. So when you have lots of diverse opinions, then markets work efficiently, and then the prices can be trusted. But right now, that's not the case. You tend to get a panic sell-off in markets when everyone owns the same thing and everyone wants to exit at the same time. It's as if you're in a theater, in a crowded theater, and there's a fire, and you suddenly realize there's only one tiny exit. The next financial crisis could be much worse, much, much worse. And what will that mean for humanity? But the biggest issue is really ethics. If passive funds grow at this pace, then the 5 largest companies that own passive funds, that offer passive funds, will own 60% of our companies in just 10 years' time. Will they do the right thing? Will they tackle climate change? Or will they simply grow and invest in the status quo? I believe the best systems are those with checks and balances, yin and yang. You cannot have a financial system just with number crunches, just as much as you cannot have a system just with arts graduates. You cannot have a system run mainly by men or run mainly by women. You need that balance. In the same way, passive funds are convenient, they're affordable, but we cannot just have passive funds. For a long time, I was passive. I was passive in my job in finance, and that's because I didn't really want to be part of it. I felt I let myself down. I felt I let my parents down, who were creative human beings. But recently I thought, no, I need to be part of the system. I want to be active. I want to activate change. I invest in companies when I've met them. I'm a human investor. If I make a mistake, I'm accountable. I'm not a package without a face. The word idiot originally comes from ancient Greek, and it actually means someone who does not vote, someone who is apathetic, who doesn't take part in society and politics, has no opinions, is passive. Today, since we're in the Houses of Parliament, I want you to vote, and I want you to vote for more humanity in investment. Thank you.